Thank you for downloading this Brum Radio podcast. For more podcasts, visit brumradio.com.
And now, for your listening pleasure, it's the Brum Picture Show, brought to you by Brum Radio.
Hello, and welcome to episode 3 of the Brum Picture Show on Brum Radio, a weekly film show covering local, independent and world cinema, brought to you by Birmingham-based community cinema collective Screen B14. So, what's coming up on today's show? Well, in celebration of the release of Napoleon, today we're going to be talking about everyone's favourite 85-year-old workaholic, the great Sir Ridley Scott. Alongside some movie news and some great tunes, we'll be discussing his oeuvre, reviewing his new opus, Napoleon, and hopefully we'll have some time to talk about many other interesting things. Now, it's a little bit quieter in the studio than usual today, as most of the members of Screen B14 are all too busy networking at Real Brum Night. But fear not, today's episode won't just be me rambling alone into the void. I am joined by my esteemed colleague and friend, a walking encyclopedia of movie knowledge and an extremely talented filmmaker in her own right. It's the one and only, the great Nadine O'Mahony. Nadine, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm here. I'm happy. I'm not networking. I'm all networked out. But I am here to talk about Ridley Scott.
Glad to hear it, Nadine. Thanks for joining us. Otherwise, this would have been a horrible experience for everyone involved, for me, for the listeners. So thanks. I've got someone to talk to. You may recall, if you listened last week, that we were bemoaning the lack of emails sent to us, and that we wouldn't actually mind if you just sent us some hate, as at least it would give us something to read. Well, exciting news, guys. I have been reliably informed that we have some emails. So, Nadine, what has turned up in our inbox this week?
Well, I know we did suggest that we'd welcome an inbox full of hate, but I'm afraid to say that all we've got is an inbox full of love.
Oh, for goodness sake.
Yes. And our first email comes from someone you may know, perhaps?
Go on.
David Vernon.
Well, that does happen to be my dad's name, but that would be pretty pathetic if we were resorting to reading out emails from our parents, right?
Of course, it can't be that same David Vernon.
It must be a different one.
But yeah, David's written in to say, "Hi Paul, Nadine and Rory. Very much enjoyed your second show. I particularly enjoyed Nadine's reminiscences about Stella Street, which I loved watching when I returned home from the pub on a Friday night.
Yeah.
Hilarious performances from the late John Sessions and Phil Cornwall and directed by Peter Richardson of comic strip fame." Fun fact there, folks, I didn't know that. Sessions and Cornwall played all the characters, including Mick and Keith, Michael Caine, Michael's housekeeper, Jack Nicholson, Al Pacino and others. Great choice of songs. Keep up the good work, Dave.
Oh, well, that's nice, isn't it?
That was lovely.
Well,
I particularly enjoyed Nadine's reminiscences. I'm sure that's what everybody's takeaway from episode 2 was.
Oh, that really is a coincidence, because it was indeed my dad who was telling me about Stella Street, but as I say, it can't be him. But yes, since discussing Stella Street last week, I have been watching it, and oh my goodness, is it good. The impressions just are incredible. In particular, Al Pacino and Jack Nicholson. It is just spot on to a degree that I've not really seen before, and it is just so wonderfully strange and anarchic and just great, and I just love inhabiting that world where you know, Mick Jagger and Keith Richards are running the corner shop and just
in Surbiton.
Yeah,
I think there's actually a film version, so maybe that'll be a future podcast.
Oh,
Stella Street the movie.
Oh, excellent! Because I was thinking, isn't that funny that our first email is about a television show? But yeah, well that's good.
Classic. We've got more emails.
Oh my goodness! Well, yes. Well, thank you, Dave Vernon, whoever you are, for emailing that in. We agree.
So we've got another email of a Chris, who I believe is from Sturchley Open Cinema.
Ooh.
if you listen to the last podcast, folks, you'll know that Sturchley Open Cinema, we've got a bit of a friendly rivalry with them. They're a fellow community cinema based in Birmingham and have many screenings out of Sturchley Baths and other locations in Sturchley. So yes, is this going to be our first hate mail?
Oh.
Wow. No.
Oh, right, cool.
Hey Brum Picture Show crew, Chris here from Sturchley Open Cinema. Hello. In your last episode, I heard you say that you'd accept hate mail on the show, but I'm only here to send love, baby.
Oh.
I loved listening to the latest episode of BPS and found myself nodding along and wanting to chip in with the conversation, a sign of a great show. So here's what I was shouting enthusiastically at my phone whilst listening last week. Firstly, I had no idea about the ins and outs of the Hollywood strikes, so it was really interesting to hear that the biggest stars were striking on behalf of the actors and writers who were on the up. What was also fascinating and a bit disturbing to learn was the AI-induced anxiety for extras. I didn't realise faces were being scanned with a view to reproducing their likeness. Yuck. Thanks for the education. Secondly, I was desperate to chip in with the noir chat. One of my favourite films in the last, I don't know how many years, is Winter's Bone. I remember watching it and realising about halfway through, oh my God, this is a noir film. Like Nadine said, it's not necessarily the shadows and angles, it's more of a vibe. And I feel like Winter's Bone hits those noir vibes. What do you think? If there's anyone that hasn't seen it, I highly recommend it. I'll also be checking out your suggestions, so thanks. Lastly, I can't remember which film Nadine was referring to, but Paul, I think it was Paul, said, oh, I hate that film. And that got me thinking about controversial takes. For example, Sturchley Open Cinema member Caris, or Charis, I'm not sure, loves Nightmare Before Christmas. I have absolutely no time for it. Not interested. Ooh. I know it's a beloved film for lots of people, and I often feel like I should like it. I just don't. Are there any films you guys dislike that you get lambasted for? Hope that's enough content for you. I know Rory was keen for some hate, so here goes. You're short, your belly button sticks out too far, and you're a terrible burden on your poor mother. Lots of love, Chris.
Oh my goodness! Well, thank you for that, Chris.
I mean, apart from the bit about Rory, that was not on.
Oh, that was directed directly at Rory then.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. He's not that short. The rest of it stands.
So that's amazing. So thank you so much for that. Yeah. Do you have any hot takes, Paul?
Well, first of all, I believe it was Spaceballs was the film that I don't much care for. Yeah. So I guess that is my controversial take. And I don't very much care for that film. What else don't I really care for? Should have really prepared this in advance.
Yeah, I think, I mean,
that is my answer. Spaceballs, don't much care for it. Nadine, any controversial takes for you?
All of my takes are controversial, aren't they? No, it's a good question. I mean, I do remember you once saying that the Muppets Christmas Carol film was one of the greatest films of all time.
I did not say that. I said it was the greatest film of all time.
Thank you for the correction. I don't know if I can get on board with that statement.
Get Out.
Oh,
actually, I didn't think Get Out was very good either. Oh, I don't think Jordan Peele's that good. Oh.
Yeah, the hate mail's going to start flowing in now.
I'm just being a provocateur here. But I did think it was overrated. It was,
well, everything's overrated, isn't it? Yeah, nowadays.
It owed too much to being John Malkovich, and I'd rather have just watched that film. That was my takeaway. That's
fair. I mean, Paul, I have to say you are king of the controversial takes. And I love the way Paul will launch into something being, well, we can all agree. And then it will be something incredibly divisive that none of us can agree on.
Yeah.
So that's what I do enjoy, your hot takes. But yeah, I don't know. I'm sure I think I'm more likely to praise something that's probably not widely considered amazing. Like, well, being on topic, I really enjoyed House of Gucci. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
I know that's a bit of a controversial take. I know not a lot of people seem to rate it very highly, but I thought it was a lot of fun. I watched it twice.
That's not a controversial take. It's a good movie.
Is that Mario?
Or is it Jared Leto? Who can tell? Just quickly though, Winter's Bone, yes, very good film. Thanks,
Yeah.
Chris.
Great acting.
Well, it's really nice that we've had some emails. If you would like to join our listeners that have emailed in becoming famous and having your name and thoughts read out on local radio, then don't hesitate to get in touch at pictureshow@brumradio.com. Now it's time to move on to the news section. So we're going to have a brief little look at the news items that have caught our eye this week. So, Nadine?
Well, I have a little thing. Absolute cinematic maestro, Francis Ford Coppola.
Oh,
And this is Ridley Scott related, as it is the Ridley Scott episode.
splendid.
Says that Sir Ridley Scott should be given a dukedom for such outstanding quality output. So, Sir Ridley Scott, it's not enough that he's been knighted.
Should have a dukedom.
He should be a duke. The Duke of Film.
Is
perhaps.
dukedom how you refer to it?
That's how he referred to it, and
I'm
I'm
not
not.
going to argue with Francis, no.
No.
All right.
So yeah, the Duke. We should be referred.
Duke
Lord
Ridley.
Lord Ridley. Is that how you refer to a Duke? I don't know. Please do email in and correct us.
Yeah, is a duke the same as a lord? They're different, right?
Well, I think that's how you refer to a Duke. So you don't call them Duke Ridley. Like when you refer to him, he'd be Lord Ridley, Duke of Scott.
Right.
Lord Ridley, Duke of Cinema.
Okay. Oh, well, that's nice. That's good.
Yeah,
That Francis has got Ridley's back.
He likes to pop up every now and again just to prop up some of his fellow octogenarians. I mean, is he in his 80s? I don't know.
Presumably.
Presumably. He's been around a while. But, you know, that is some high praise coming from the man who competed against himself in the Oscars when The Conversation and The Godfather 2 were both up for Best Picture, I think, or Best Director.
That's bonkers to think about, isn't it?
That's my gold standard.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
where I want to be as a filmmaker, competing against myself at the Oscars and winning. You don't want to split the vote.
No.
But he did win. He won for The Godfather 2. So yeah, high praise indeed. Should we be giving Ridley Scott a dukedom? Is that how you refer to it? Is a duke also a lord? Please email in if you've got the answers to any of these questions. I only know about film. I'm not big on royal titles, so please do educate us on that.
Oh, very good. Well, thanks for that, Nadine. Yeah, let us know at pictureshow@brumradio.com if you can answer any of the questions that we just posited. I've also got a Ridley-based news item, because let's face it, Ridley's good at getting himself in the news, isn't he, with his wonderful little sound bites. This thing that caught my eye is from Ridley Scott's recent interview with the Rolling Stone, and the hot scoop is that Gladiator 2 will star, and I quote, a rhinoceros charging around in an arena trying to kill people.
Ooh, wow. If you're a Gladiator fan, as I am, you'll know that in the original film, they'd intended to have a rhinoceros sequence.
Oh.
So I guess now he's finally realising that vision.
Yeah.
For some reason, they decided against it. I think the CGI wasn't quite there yet, and maybe training actual live rhinoceroses was a bit more tricky than using actual tigers.
Yeah, I heard the rhinoceros just didn't get on with Russell Crowe, so they had to wait 20 years, and Paul Mescal has a notoriously good relationship with rhinoceroses. So,
Well, I did not know that. I'm learning something new myself.
do you not remember After Sun, the bit with the rhinoceros?
I must have drifted off at that point. I genuinely don't remember that bit.
That was my favourite bit. But anyway, so, well, that's interesting. So it took them 20 years to get the rhinoceros in. And apparently, Gladiator 2, as it stands, he says it's going to be an hour and 45 minutes. Which I'll believe that when I see it.
What?
Surely, an hour and 45 minutes. Although he does say that's after 9 weeks of filming, so I don't know whether he's suggesting that after they do some more filming, because obviously the actors' strike happened like partway through production. Does that mean that there's still like another 2 hours of the film to do? I don't know. I don't know what he's suggesting there.
Well, I have to say, we all know he's the king of the director's cut. I think he might have even had the first ever director's cut with the Blade Runner film. If, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, Gladiator, he did do an extended version, but he said the theatrical version was the director's cut, and I believe it was the superior version. So maybe he's telling the truth. Gladiator wasn't that long, really.
Well, yeah, and notoriously the Alien director's cut is shorter than the theatrical cut, isn't it?
Oh, if you say so, Paul.
I do say so. I do say so. No, it's slightly trimmed and tightened up. So it does seem, even though he has made some very long films, like he is very conscious of running times, and I think he's been saying recently about the bum ache that sets in after in a 3-hour film. So he does try to think about it quite a lot. But nevertheless, I cannot believe that Gladiator 2 will be an hour and 45 minutes long. But there you go. So that's some stuff about Gladiator 2 and Ridley Scott. Ridley is just great in interviews, isn't he? So we've got a list of some things that Ridley Scott has said. And I'll admit, most of it isn't really radio friendly, to be honest with you. But he does have a habit of saying some mad things in interviews, and we love him for it. Just a few little selections here. Warning about the dangers of AI. This was apparently in an interview with Deadline. He said, "We are all completely effed. We're back to candles and matches. Do you have candles and matches at home? I live in France, so I do." That's nice.
Can we not hear it in the accent, in the Yorkshire accent?
He doesn't sound that Yorkshire, does he?
It does a bit.
We're all completely effed. We're back to candles and matches. Do you have candles and matches at home? I live in France, so I do. His thoughts on whether or not... So this was an interview of the Evening Standard, which apparently drifted over into his thoughts on aliens. And he was like, "How did Egyptians build pyramids? Rolling 20-ton stones on logs. F off." So apparently Ridley believes in aliens.
Alien?
That's nice. I mean, he made Alien.
I should hope so.
I should hope so. Alien was in fact a documentary to him, as was Prometheus and all that. What else did he say? Oh yes, of course. Okay. No, this is a good one. So this was a few years ago, I believe, possibly on the House of Gucci press tour when he was talking to Deadline again. This was on the subject of superheroes. Best films are driven by characters. And we'll come to superheroes after this if you want, because I'll crush it. I'll effing crush it. They're effing boring as S. So
they're effing boring as S.
Their scripts aren't any effing good. I think I'd have done 3 great scripted superhero movies. One would be Alien, Sigourney Weaver, one would be effing Gladiator, and one would be Blade Runner. They're superhero movies, so why don't the superhero movies have better stories? Sorry, I got off the rail, but come on. They're mostly saved by special effects, and that's becoming boring for everyone who works with special effects if you got the money. All right. And then finally, just one more. This was when he was talking to Mark Maron about The Last Duel and why it wasn't very successful, and he blamed it on the young people. I think what it boils down to, what we've got today are the audiences who are brought up on these effing cell phones. The millennium who don't ever need to be taught anything unless you tell it on cell phone. So that's Ridley Scott.
To be fair, it was as if Sir Ridley had walked into the studio, folks. My eyes and my ears were telling me 2 different things. I couldn't compute. But yeah, amazing. I mean, to be fair, I am on my phone quite a bit. Yes. So I think he's got me there.
Yeah, I don't think Ridley would like us.
Oh no, don't say that.
Imagine. Oh
don't
my
say
goodness.
That, Paul.
Oh no, he'd probably think we're great. He's listening right now. Ridley, if you like us, can you email us, please? pictureshow@brumradio.com. We're going to say nice things about your film, maybe. Maybe. We'll find out later in the show what Nadine and I think about Napoleon. But for now, let's move on to our main feature, which is more Ridley Scott.
If you think you didn't have enough of him, it is the Ridley Scott show.
Yeah.
It's the Ridley Scott show today. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, you're just going to have to deal with that. You are listening to the Brum Picture Show on Brum Radio, and we are talking about Ridley Scott today. Now, luckily, In the studio today, we have a Ridley Scott superfan, Nadine, and now we're going to have a general discussion of his oeuvre, and then we are going to pick a film each from his filmography and discuss that in some detail. And now Nadine is going to talk for about 4 to 6 hours about Ridley Scott and how much she loves him. So Nadine, introduce us to Ridley Scott.
Only 4 to 6 hours.
Yeah.
I probably could go on all night. Look, we all know that hero worshipping is wrong these days because we see so many news stories that, people that we think are really cool are, murdering kittens or something in their private life. So I don't want to... This isn't about... I love Ridley's work. I love his work ethic, and I've learnt so much from him. I don't know him as a person. And he does say some controversial things sometimes. I think I put it down to him being a blunt Yorkshireman. He's probably not everybody's cup of tea, but what you have to respect is what he's achieved over his career, the work that he's done, unless you're an Oscar voter, because Sir Ridley has not won an Oscar yet. Been nominated 4 times, not won an Oscar, has a BAFTA. Make of that what you will. But as I said, he's a Yorkshireman, he's from South Shields, brother of Tony Scott. Ooh. If you're a Top Gun fan, his brother Tony directed that. And he actually got his brother into filmmaking. So Ridley was always a bit of an artist, went to art school, went to the Royal College of Art, very posh. He found a Bolex camera in a cupboard, apparently, and said, "Can I borrow this for the summer holidays?" Roped his brother in, he was younger than him, Tony. I said, "Get on your bike, Tony." And filmed his first short film, which I think was Boy on a Bicycle, starring Tony Scott in the lead role as the boy. Or the bicycle. I haven't actually seen it. I assume he was the boy. But interestingly, if it sounds a little bit like the Hovis advert, the classic Hovis advert with the boy on the bicycle going up the hill, you'd be right, because Ridley Scott directed that. Ridley Scott worked in advertising for many, many years. Some of the best known, most iconic adverts were made by him. So I think the Flake advert with the woman in the bath, and the water's overflowing while she's enjoying her flake. Not that iconic for you, Paul?
I've no memory of that
you
whatsoever.
Are a little bit, maybe you're a bit too young, but I'm sure...
I'm only 4 years younger than you.
All right, if that's not iconic enough for you, what about the Apple advert? The weird one that didn't make any sense, that everyone's like, what the heck is going on here?
That's the one that is parodied in Futurama, in a Futurama episode, right? And it's the big screen, and it's all grey, and they got the big crowd of drone workers or whatever.
That was a Ridley Scott production.
Oh.
So he did thousands of hours of work on commercials, and was a camera operator as well. A point of pride for him, something he mentions a lot in interviews. In fact, he did camera work on Alien, he did camera work on many of his films until he got to America and they told him to back off because they like that. So that's how he came up. And he didn't actually direct his first film, The Duelist, until he was 38. So, not a spring chicken, but he's made up for it since, because he's still going, and he's how old? 85? So making up for lost time. I mean, he did two during the pandemic, he did 2 films. You know what I did during the pandemic? Lie around on my sofa experiencing a lot of existential dread. I certainly didn't direct anything. But, you've got to admire that at the very least. So, yeah. Came up through advertising, did The Duelist. Studio didn't really know what to do with The Duelist. It was a period piece. It was a bit out of fashion at the time. Apparently they only made 7 prints of it. Ridley was like, "Is that normal?" And he was told, no, they don't like the film. But after that, all-time classic sci-fi horror, Alien. Very influenced by Star Wars. Apparently he'd seen Star Wars and he thought, "Ooh, I like that. I want to do something a bit like that." Originally, it wasn't written for a woman, but at some point, I think they thought, "Oh, let's put a woman in this and see what happens." And now we've got one of the most iconic female characters in cinematic history, Ripley, played by Sigourney Weaver, and that's something that I really, really enjoy about Ridley's films. As we said, he's a little bit older. He's not quite on it with the millennials and the phones and stuff. But one thing that he has really championed in his films is women. Okay, some of his films might fall into Smurfette territory, which is, one woman surrounded by a bunch of men. And they may not always pass the Bechdel test, if that's how you pronounce it.
Would you like to explain what that is to the
do I have time? Well,
Yeah.
it's a test to see how feminist a film is, and it's some very, very basic criteria, and it's quite shocking how many films fail it. So it's things like, is there more than one woman? Do they have a conversation? Is it about something other than a man? And unfortunately, most films do not pass that test. And some of Ridley Scott's films may not pass that test as well. But I have to say, this is the director that gave us Thelma and Louise and G.I. Jane. I think, he's an honorary woman in my eyes. So I have to really applaud him for that. I think he's like, why can't women be in action films? Like, in that very... You can imagine that very blunt, straightforward way of his. He wanted to produce Thelma and Louise originally, and was shopping it around. I think he wanted to. He wasn't planning on directing, and he said a lot of the feedback he got was, "Oh, it's two women," and he was like, "That's the point, dude." Can you imagine if he'd be like, "Oh, should we make one of them a man?"
Thelma and Louis.
Yeah, not quite the same, is it? So he stuck to his guns there, and apparently he approached Michelle Pfeiffer, and it was on her suggestion that he direct the film. She was too busy, but she loved the script, and she said, "Why don't you do it?" And he thought, yeah, you're right. Why don't I? I mean, what else is there to say? I mean, he's transitioned from, as I said, period. He's done sci-fi, king of sci-fi, with not just Alien, but as you said, Blade Runner, and all the various iterations of that, of Alien. And then, well, he didn't direct them all. Forget that. Scrap that.
apparently he was livid that he wasn't asked back to do Aliens. And all those people out there who say, oh, Aliens is better than Alien. No, it's not.
What are you talking about?
You're wrong. Shut up.
Exactly. Alien was a horror movie. Aliens is just a big, dumb action film.
Yeah.
So if you don't agree with that hot take, you know what to do. You can email us. But yeah, so, king of sci-fi. He's done comedy. He's done everything. He's done drama. He hasn't done a musical yet, I don't think, but I'm sure it's on the cards. He's done feminist films. He's done war movies. He's done epics. He's in his epic phase now, I think, and it seems to suit him. But anything where he gets to build a world, I think that's his strong suit. So, and what I like most about him, why do I like him? Well, his films are beautiful. They've got great actors in. I love his range. But what I also love, he's got a filmmaking philosophy, and I have to say he's been one of the most influential directors on my own filmmaking. Not in terms of style. I don't know that you could look at one of my films and hold them up to one of Ridley's and go, oh, I can see the influence there. But it's more how he approaches filmmaking. And I boil that philosophy down to, if it rains, shoot in the rain. That's Ridley Scott's philosophy. So, some filmmakers would wait until the weather's perfect. You're paying a crew, you're paying actors every day, waiting for that, sunshine to break out. Ridley'd be like, F it, let's get out there and shoot something. And that thing that he shoots might be 10 times better. That is actually something that happened to me on my last short film. It did rain. It wasn't in the script to rain. We moved things around because we were worried about continuity. So as the film all took place in one day, we had to shoot the rainy scene as the last scene because it just wouldn't have made sense otherwise. I'm so glad we did. I'm so glad we didn't wait for it to be dry because it adds so much to that scene. It's such an emotional scene. It's such a sad scene, and it just looks great. You might have noticed this, listeners, but quite often in films, the ground is wet, but it's not raining. That's just because it looks cool to have like a shiny wet floor. And in most of those cases, that has been done purposefully by the crew. Someone's just gone around with some water and hosed down. It's called a wet down. And it just looks really cool, and the lights shine off it, and it's just reflective and nice. And we had the best wet down ever because we shot in the rain. And there was a neon red light in the background, and it spilled across the floor, and it was great because red was part of our colour scheme. So yeah, things go wrong. He says you've got to embrace stress. This is another part of the zen of Ridley. He takes it in his stride. You know, during Legend, the whole set burnt down.
Oh.
That's quite a stressful thing to happen on a set. Nobody was hurt, as far as I'm aware, but, you know, that would set you back. It's expensive. It's stressful. One of the producers was looking for Ridley. Where's Ridley? What's Ridley doing? Oh, he's gone to play tennis. And you know what? And the guy says, you know what? The producer said, that was the exact right thing to do. What else can you do? Go and play a game of tennis. That's how he unwound in those days.
With Tom Cruise?
Yes, Legend with Tom Cruise. Not with Tom Hardy. And there was another fire on Kingdom of Heaven. It's getting a bit suspicious now.
Ridley just wants to go and play tennis. He just keeps setting his sets on fire.
But on this occasion, it was one of the war machines, the siege towers or something, caught fire. Again, I don't believe anyone was harmed. But Ridley decided to film it. Because he thought, that looks quite cool. Why don't we film it? And he filmed it, and it's in the finished film.
Wow.
So I have to applaud him for rolling with it. A lesser filmmaker would be cowering in their Winnebago, crying every time something caught on fire. But you know, that's not Ridley's philosophy.
Surely
Ridley's like, where's my camera? Where's my camera?
Surely all the insurance people weren't very happy about that.
I mean, I don't want to say these things happen because absolutely they shouldn't happen. You shouldn't be having fires on set.
No.
But, you know, with a career as lengthy as Ridley's, you know, things, you know, electronics, things happen. I just admire that he didn't get too upset about it and just sort of, you know, the old keep calm and carry on.
Yeah. No, good for Ridley. He's certainly got quite the work ethic, and I think he's definitely one of those filmmakers that, as you say, maybe that is because he started late. He just seems incredibly keen to just make as many films as quickly as possible, and I respect that very much. But also, in a way, though, his career kind of reminds me a little bit of Clint Eastwood's, in that he's so prolific and he's made so many films that you kind of forget that he has made a lot of, let's say, not so great films in there as well. Wow. I know, but you know, Body of Lies and things like that.
I haven't seen that one.
Okay, you got to admit they're not exactly up there, and
I'm sure I'd love it.
I do, yeah, maybe, but I do feel like because he's so very much about the visual that I feel sometimes maybe some of his films could have done with another pass on the script, but he's just like, no, that'll do. Let's just get shooting now. That's it. Oh, no, that's done.
The film's lined up.
No, just give me that. That's fine.
That'll do you.
That'll do me. But the thing is, his masterpieces are such amazing masterpieces that they kind of cancel out all the other kind of maybe not so amazing films, and I do think that is very similar to Clint Eastwood in that.
As a filmmaker, you're lucky if you've got a Blade Runner. You're lucky if you've got an Alien or a Gladiator or, you know, any number, or a Thelma and Louise. He's got all of them and more.
Exactly.
So I think, you know, you got to give him a pass sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it is astonishing. But yeah, good on you, Ridley Scott. You are listening to the Brum Picture Show on Brum Radio, and we have been talking all things Ridley Scott. We've had a nice little introduction to his career, but now we're going to pick a film each and talk about it in some detail. Now, I've gone for this one, not necessarily because it is my favourite Ridley Scott film, because, I mean, what is my favourite? That's a hard one. It's probably The Martian.
Really?
No, I do really love The Martian, but obviously it's not Alien or Blade Runner, is it? But I'm very fond of it, and I'd like to add I'm very fond of Prometheus as well, which I think is wrongly maligned, and I think it would have been far more successful had it just not had anything to do with Alien.
I think it's being reevaluated. I think people have started to come at it differently now. I've heard a few people. I think when Alien Covenant came out, people were like, "Oh, remember Prometheus?"
Yeah, that's the thing.
Wasn't that good?
Alien Covenant was, because again, there was so much I really liked about Alien Covenant, but then it just ruined it by trying to be alien again at the end. There was just too much.
What do you want, people?
Exactly.
You don't like Prometheus. You want Alien again. He gives you Alien again. You don't like it.
So
come on.
There's no pleasing some people.
Exactly.
But yeah, I'm kind of sad that he didn't get to carry on his whole Alien opus thing, or that world, or the Prometheus universe. Anyway, I would have liked for that to be a separate mythology, and then him just to explore that for a while, because I do get people's reservations that it does kind of ruin the original Alien films a bit. It does kind of ruin the mystery a bit. It's just like, oh, it's just Michael Fassbender tinkering around in space. Again, I'm going to make some aliens now. So,
is that what it...
yeah.
Spoiler.
Oh, sorry. But I am going to talk about Black Rain, because that is a film I watched recently, and I'll be honest, I didn't really know it existed until I was scrolling through Amazon or something, and I was like, oh, what's that? Oh, Michael Douglas. Oh, Andy Garcia. Oh, Ridley Scott. Oh, 1989. Neon. Good stuff. So I gave it a go. And it is quite an interesting film. So it focuses on two NYPD detectives, and they arrest a member of the Yakuza, and they must escort him back to Japan. And then it goes from there. So it is a kind of neon noir film. But what's interesting about it, so they shot it in Japan. Well, mostly in Japan. So it does, aesthetically, it is quite similar to Blade Runner in it. It's all lots of very nice neon lights and lots of rain. It's all very visually pleasing. But what I wasn't expecting from the film is just quite how silly it is. Like, it is quite... Yeah, it's like, I'm going to say it's a buddy cop film, but it certainly flirts with that. And this makes a lot of sense, actually, its silliness, because apparently it was originally supposed to be directed by Paul Verhoeven. Did you know that?
Paul Verhoeven?
But yeah, Verhoeven.
Okay, I'll take that as your correct
Yeah.
pronunciation.
Verhoeven, that's yeah, I think that's it.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah, but anyway, apparently he was originally supposed to be directing it, and then he went off to go and make Total Recall instead, which...
Oh, is one of my all-time favourite films.
Yeah, so I thought you'd enjoy that factoid. Again, that kind of explains the tone of it a bit, is I can completely see the version of it that would be made by him. It's just a lot of fun, and, it's aesthetically gorgeous, and the music, it's got this first collaboration with Hans Zimmer, and of course they went on to do many things together, including Gladiator soundtrack and all that kind of stuff.
One of the greatest of all time.
So, that was the beginning of that beautiful friendship and relationship. And it's just one that I thought I'd mention because it doesn't really... I don't really hear people talking about it very often, and it's a film that exists. It's got some good actors in. It looks nice.
Is that the highest praise you can give it?
It's a film that exists. If you like films...
I'm sold!
If you like films that exist, then it is one for you, definitely. But no, it's just one that I thought I'd mention because it is not, it's not one that people talk about.
Obscure.
Yeah, a little bit more obscure, but it's also just very enjoyable.
But I totally get what you mean with the Blade Runner thing, because there's lots of... Because Blade Runner was very influenced by Japan and East Asia in general, and so maybe it's kind of, flirting with that. You can see the sort of progression there, can't you, into that world.
Indeed. So they filmed a lot of it in Japan, but apparently the experience of filming over there made Ridley Scott vow never to film there again because there was so much red tape with the filming it that it just became a nightmare. And eventually Scott had to finish filming in California because it was just too much hassle. But I'm sure they had a nice time. Exactly.
They look gorgeous. At the very least, what you can say about Ridley Scott films is they look gorgeous. I contend that Gladiator is an art house movie. It's so beautifully shot, and there's so many just weird visual ideas in there that you wouldn't get in a normal studio film. So I love I love his idiosyncrasies.
Absolutely. Well, you say Gladiator was an art house film, but I put it to you that far more of an art house film would have been Nick Cave's version of Gladiator 2, which, oh my goodness.
Nick Cave, the musician.
Nick Cave, the musician, the legendary Nick Cave, who, of course, is related to he's in the filmmaking world as well because he wrote The Proposition, the John Hillcoat film. Did you not know that?
No, I didn't know
he
that.
wrote The Proposition. He also wrote Lawless as well, which was also a John Hillcoat film, I believe. So it's not completely random that it was just like, oh, let's get Nick Cave to write Gladiator sequel. But yeah, he has written films. So apparently Nick Cave was asked to write a Gladiator sequel, and what he wrote just sounds like it would have been the most bonkers and glorious thing, and it would have been beyond art house, frankly. So apparently Nick Cave's Gladiator sequel would have followed Maximus Decimus Meridius from
father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife.
And I shall have my vengeance.
Oh,
My name is Maximus Decimus Meridius, commander of the armies of the North, loyal servant to the true emperor, Marcus Aurelius, father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife, and I will have my vengeance, in this life or the next.
it was as if Russell Crowe entered. That was good.
Oh yeah, so apparently the sequel would have followed Maximus in the afterlife, hanging out with a load of gods and whatnot, and then it eventually builds up to a series of events that leads him being cursed to live forever, and the film would have followed him through various conflicts in history, such as the Crusades, World War II, and the Vietnam War, before eventually finding Maximus Decimus Meridius working at the Pentagon in modern-day America.
What?
Exactly. And I quote, this is from Collider, continuing his eternal struggle against mankind's most depraved of emotions, while still contending with his inability to reunite with his deceased family. Roll credits. And that just sounds amazing. But apparently Russell Crowe's response to this script was, I don't like it, mate. That was it.
That was it. And he was dead.
That was it. But no, apparently Ridley did say it worked very well. But then he just scrapped the whole plan, and then
one, I'm kind of glad he did, because I think it would have totally undone the whole poignancy of Maximus's death at the end of the first Gladiator. Do you know, they just brought him back to life in the next one.
Well, you know.
But it sounds bonkers.
Exactly.
But I think I'm looking forward to this version of Gladiator.
The rhinoceros version.
Yes.
Exactly.
Well,
maybe
Paul Mescal.
Maybe it winds up with a rhinoceros working at the Pentagon. You don't know. Maybe this is going to be just as bonkers.
Maybe it's going to be that script just with Paul Mescal in it.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
That would be not as good. But I'm a bit... Barry Keoghan was supposed to be in Gladiator 2 and he's not now.
Oh yeah, why was it?
I don't know, scheduling, boring. But he will be. We will be mentioning him a little bit later because we've both seen Saltburn. But yeah, just little factoid there.
There you go. So that's my favourite Ridley Scott film, is the Gladiator sequel that doesn't exist.
Oh, okay. A film he didn't direct, basically.
So there's two choices: Black Rain, a film that does exist, and then Gladiator 2, which does not.
Fair enough.
So Nadine, what's your pick?
Well, mine is also a film that actually exists.
Woo!
It's not just one of my favourite Ridley Scott films. It is one of my favourite all-time films. With a caveat, with an asterisk, the director's cut, of course. King of the director's cut, Sir Ridley Scott. But yeah, I'm going to be talking about Kingdom of Heaven. If you have seen the theatrical version and you're like, what are you talking about? Well, that was rubbish. Shut up. Go home, get your hands on a copy of the extended director's cut, watch that, and then you're entitled to an opinion, because it's a completely different film. I went to see the film at the cinema and I wanted to see Gladiator 2. I wanted to see something epic and brilliant and just sort of art house and mind-bending, and I was a little disappointed. So I wasn't a huge fan of Orlando. I thought his character didn't quite make sense. There were a lot of things that just didn't add up. Wasn't that impressed. I completely reevaluated that once I saw the director's cut. All the things that didn't make sense made sense because there was backstory and there was other, scenes that were cut. There was lots of Michael Sheen. There's a different relationship that he and Michael Sheen have, or a deeper relationship in the extended version. I felt Orlando's performance was better because it had all this extra context that wasn't in the original. And there's the person who was most sort of shafted by this editing was Eva Green, who had a whole storyline that was just erased from the film. And, Ridley Scott has lots of fantastic female characters in his films. This was another one of those. Unfortunately, the studio didn't see it that way. And, of course, her storyline gets cut. And it really does damage the film. They wanted to concentrate on Balion's arc, on the hero's arc, and pretty much all of her best stuff was cut out, and it just completely changes the film. And it's just such a beautiful film. So yes, it's an epic film. It deserves an epic runtime. And it's so lavish, it's so beautiful, it's so exquisite, and the acting is amazing. Some of my favourite actors, Jeremy Irons is in Kingdom of Heaven, David Thewlis, top names, Brendan Gleeson, Edward Norton, Michael Sheen, Liam Neeson, for goodness sake, Ghassan Massoud as Saladin, Alexander Siddig, just amazing cast, and really giving some top-notch performances. I'm not a fan of Edward Norton, to be fair, but he is in a mask for most of the film, so I can I tolerate him in this, and he does a good sort of transatlantic accent.
He's a great actor. I just think he sounds like a nightmare to work with.
Yeah, I think I just don't like him on a personal level.
Yeah.
I don't even know him, but I just don't like him. That's my hot take. Mm-hmm. But tolerable in this. Does quite well, and it's just the attention to detail. They spent, I believe, £250,000, or could be more, on flags. Flags. And they were made of silk because they decided that it was more authentic, and it would have been a false economy to go for something cheaper.
Wow.
In the desert. So it's that level of spectacle. And it's a very deep film. It's a beautiful script. Same script writer who wrote The Departed, William Monaghan, lovely Irish name there. Maybe not the most historically accurate film, but, get a life, says Ridley.
That's right.
to the naysayers.
Were you there?
But they did the research. So the things that the differences they made, they knew they were making them. It wasn't out of ignorance. I've got a lot of time for that film. Beautiful score, exquisite to look at, quite philosophical, quite deep, deals with some important issues, some great actors in it, some great performances in it, brilliant, action shot amazingly. You can't, fault him for that. And just a wonderful sort of vibe, just that the sort of beautiful desert and the silk sort of robes and the beautiful score, and it's just I love it. I think it's a great film.
Oh, good stuff. I must admit that is one of his filmography that has slipped me by.
I'm going to force you to watch it.
Yeah, there's no forcing will be required.
Please don't watch the theatrical cut first unless you're intending to watch the far superior director's cut afterwards.
Why not do them both back to back? Have a lovely little Kingdom of Heaven double bill. There you go. Oh, lovely. Well, it's probably time to be moving on now. But that was our deep dive into Ridley Scott. And coming up, we've got more Ridley Scott because it's Ridley Day.
Ridley Scott Day, woo!
Right here on the Brum Picture Show on Brum Radio, we are about to review Napoleon.
Dun, dun, dun. Much anticipated this. I was a big fan of Gladiator. It's one of my favourite films. Mm-hmm. Massive fan of Joaquin Phoenix. So to have them team up again for the first time since Gladiator in an epic film about Napoleon, I was, highly anticipating this.
It's exciting stuff, and I must say it is Joaquin's performance that makes this film for me, because I believe Joaquin was trying to get out of it. He was like, Ridley, I'm not good enough. But
he always does that. He did that in Gladiator. He's very insecure, according to Ridley.
Bless him.
But yeah, he was like, why me? I can't do this.
I can't do it. Well, Joaquin, have some faith in yourself, mate. You're quite good. You're quite a good actor.
You're all right.
You're all right.
You're all right.
But yeah, I really do love him in this film because there's bits in this where he plays it like he plays Napoleon as a vulnerable, small young boy, and I love that because there's these little bits that there's one of the opening scenes. He's looking genuinely scared as he's about to go into this attack on a fort, and then there's another bit which is just where he's running away from a revolting mob, and it is just out of his performance in Beau is Afraid with this kind of like farcical, just kind of I'm miming here, but he's just like this wide-eyed expression of just like, whoa, what's going on kind of thing, and it is
falls down the stairs, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's so comic in that, and it's just like there's all these wonderful little touches in there, and just like wonderful little line readings, and it's one of my favorite line readings of the year is, "You think you're so great because you have boats." And then he just storms out.
One of the criticisms of this film is that it's unintentionally funny, and I completely refute that.
Yeah, I think it's intentionally
funny.
funny.
Very intentionally funny.
Very much so.
And Ridley was in an interview recently and he was saying, oh, thank goodness you found it funny. It's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Fair enough if it's not your humour. Mm-hmm. Fair enough if you think that Napoleon should be dealt with in a more sort of, refined manner. Yeah. But it is intentional.
Yeah,
don't misunderstand that.
Yeah, exactly. Like it is quite, it's quite farcical in bits, and especially there's scenes with there's some steamy scenes, let's say, that are just hilarious.
Yeah,
it's just like
I think there's some oinking.
Yeah, oinking. Yes, yeah, and there's Vanessa Kirby plays Josephine, and she's just wonderful. And there's the way their relationship plays out is just so
yeah, it's a bit insane. What I love actually is that I've listened to interviews with Joaquin and Vanessa and Ridley, and they've all come out saying, we don't understand these people. Like, they're so weird. This relationship is so weird.
It is really odd.
But, do you have to understand somebody to make a film about them? Many people would say, yes, perhaps. Mm-hmm. But that's if you think, I think a lot of people are going into this wanting a film that's got a message, that's got a very strong take on Napoleon. I think Ridley is exploring something. I don't think he's got those answers for you necessarily. What I do think he is exploring in this film, and what he does do well, is this idea of the toll of war, and not just seeing him as this great leader who achieved all these things. I think he got in trouble because he compared him to Hitler at some point, and he sort of backpedaled on that a little bit. But whatever reforms he made, whatever sort of high regard he's held in, many people died because of him and his wars. Many innocent people, many soldiers, many civilians. And that is something, I wouldn't say it's the main thrust of the film, but we definitely see those moments. Some unarmed protesters at one point get attacked, and you see a woman with missing limbs, and it's very shocking, and it's not the kind of thing you normally see in this kind of film.
No. And there is a title card as well.
Near the end, that
just
really brings it home.
Yeah, that just lists the number of people that have died in the battles that Napoleon was involved with.
There's a wonderful moment with a soldier sort of holding it. He's from the enemy side, and he's the flag bearer, and he's racing across this icy lake, and you're rooting for him. He gives faces to these people that don't normally have faces in films, a lot like Sam Raimi likes to do that. But you see the consequences of this action. They're not just these big spectacle CGI toy soldiers getting blown up. They're real people. They've got feelings, they've got inner worlds, and you want them to live, and you don't want them to die, and that's something that he does really well in this film, and I applaud him for that.
Certainly, I very much enjoyed this film, but I did have some problems in it, and I think one of the main problems for me, and I think this is a problem that I have with a lot of biopics, is that it just tries to fit in far too much. I mean, it's not like it starts with Napoleon's childhood or anything, but it does kind of follow a great deal of his military career to the extent that it at times it feels both rushed and incredibly long. Like it's quite an odd one, because it's just like, oh, Napoleon did this, and then he did this, and then oh, here he is in Egypt, and now we're going on to something else. And it's there were some moments it really packed it in, and there were some moments that I would have enjoyed it if it had just kind of let certain moments breathe a little bit more and just kind of slowed down, because I think obviously the central focus is the relationship between him and Josephine, and I apparently in the director's cut there is a longer cut that will focus more on Josephine and their relationship, because that is the most fascinating part of the story, in that they have such an unusual relationship. It focuses on that, and then it just kind of I feel like the end of her story isn't really given the weight it deserves. Her side of the tale peters out a little bit, and I would have enjoyed it if it had narrowed its focus a little bit more and just kind of explored this really, really bizarre relationship that they have, because that's what the heart of the film is. But in trying to do so much about about his whole life and all the different stages of his his political career, like it's I think it does lose something, because in a way their courtship seems a little bit rushed, and I do feel that the flips in the balance of power between them, that's some really interesting stuff, this really toxic yet passionate relationship, and the fact that their relationship is seems to be like this tug of war between the emotional and the political, because it's like they have an incredibly politicized relationship, and the whole point of their relationship is their whole relationship is hanging on whether or not Napoleon's going to get an heir, and then essentially Napoleon loves her, but equally he wants his duty. Yeah, he's got his duty to his country. He needs an heir. So it's just like it's really fascinating how their relationship plays out in that way.
It might surprise you, Paul, as you've set me up as this, Ridley Scott super fan. I was a little underwhelmed by the film, and one thing actually I didn't like, and this is one of his strengths, was the visual quality of it. It's very murky. It's got that very greyish look that a lot of films have these days. I think, he was doing it on purpose. It had this, but it wasn't the kind of Ridley Scott that I knew from Kingdom of Heaven and some of his others, beautiful, exquisitely photographed films. So I wasn't as into the look of the film. But also, I agree, I wanted to spend more time with those characters. But as you say, there's a director's cut coming, and I was a bit like, oh, well, is it going to be that much better? And then I heard Vanessa Kirby talking about one of the deleted scenes, and I was like, no, this is going to be good. Yeah. I'm going to reserve judgment. I'm going to reserve my final judgment until I've seen the director's cut. It's a bit of a shame that his theatrical films are now playing more like trailers for the actual better version. And I don't currently have the streaming service that it'll be on, but I might have to get a free trial or something, because it is one that I'm going to want to watch. I love Joaquin. I've got a lot of time for Ridley. I think Vanessa Kirby was excellent in this film, and I want to see more of her. And I think that's what we're going to get in the director's cut. So I look forward to that. But it does seem like it's a bit of a Kingdom of Heaven 2 in that the woman who has the most interesting storyline gets cut out of the film at the behest of a shorter runtime. So I think that is a shame.
I did really enjoy it. I just would have enjoyed a different version of it, really. And there's
I really enjoyed it. I would have enjoyed a different version. Well, you come to the right director for that, Paul. Exactly. Enjoyed it, but could have enjoyed it more.
Yeah.
I've got 4 more versions for you. My name's Ridley Scott.
He'll keep tinkering, bless him. And also, just one quick thing. Accents, man. Like, problematic again. Because I know he's done this whole thing with the actors and he's done this a lot. The actors just speak in their own accents kind of thing. And I'm fine with that to an extent, in that, of course, they're not going to let him make a film that's entirely in French, are they? That's just not going to be a box office hit. However, what does bring me out of the film is the fact that all of the British people in it are very British. They're either very, very posh or very Cockney. It's like there's this bit when it's like the Brits up on top of the fort and they're like, "Oi, you get that goat out of here." And it just, if you're going to let people speak in their own accents, then surely some of the British people should have American accents
Oh, I
if
don't know
we're
about
doing
that.
that. But no, well, yeah, but I don't know. It just makes
that's
you
just confusing. I think it's a bit hello, isn't it? That's what you want.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a different accent, and a different accent means a different language.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, yeah, I'm not sure how you would gracefully deal with it because it's I don't know. Cinema has often struggled with this, and I think one of the most graceful ways is it Hunt for Red October or is it Crimson Tide, where it starts and they're speaking in Russian and then it zooms in on their mouths and then it just changes to English and
I
it's
don't
just
like
like
that.
you don't like it.
Pick a lane, come on.
Well, I thought that was quite an inventive way of going about it.
Just choose,
all
man.
right, fair enough.
One thing I will say is we get to see some absolutely excellent British actors in it.
Mm-hmm.
And what a surprise it was to see Kevin Eldon,
The actor Kevin Eldon,
who I always think of as Boyle from Packing 'Em In. Please, another obscure comedy gem. If you're related to Paul and you're listening and you've seen Packing 'Em In with Jenny Eclair and famous Frank Skinner of Birmingham, please email us and tell us that you remember it, because I've never met anyone else who's seen it and I watched it a lot. Yeah, Rupert Everett is in it. I love a bit of Rupert. Just again, great cast. Not my favourite Ridley Scott film, but I'm reserving judgment for the director's cut.
There you go. So that's what we thought of Napoleon in a nutshell.
Have you been watching anything else, Paul?
Well, funny you should ask that, because I went to see Saltburn.
Ooh. So did I.
Yes, we have not shared each other's opinions of it. Last time I asked you, you were like, I'm not sure what I thought about it. So are you sure what you think about it now?
Well, what happened was I went to see Napoleon and I had got there quite early, and I don't normally do this, but I thought, you know what? I've got a cinema pass. I should use it because I didn't use it in October. So I want to get my money's worth. And I went to see Saltburn the same day. And that was a weird juxtaposition, seeing those films back to back. And I came out and I put it on my Instagram that I'd been to see, and I had 3 people comment, and 2 of those comments were thoughts, ? And I was like, I'm still processing it. I've literally just come out of the cinema. And I think I am still processing it, even though that was some time ago. It's very full on, isn't it, Paul? It's very full on. There's a lot that happens in it. Some of it extreme, perhaps, or it feels like it's trying to be provocative, at least.
Exactly. I think it's extreme for a multiplex audience, and it's an extreme film to have on at your Odeon, but it's not exactly, it's not Lars von Trier, is it?
There were some gasps. I don't know, I haven't watched any Lars von Trier.
Have you not?
No.
Oh.
But I'll take your word for it, but there were gasps.
Wow. There were gasps. There was this one moment towards the end where
I think I know which moment you're talking about.
And someone just said, S.
And it goes on for some time.
Yeah.
And if it's the moment I'm thinking.
Oh no, it's a shot. It was one shot.
It goes on for a while. I know exactly which moment you're talking about.
But it seemed like diet provocation in lots of ways. And that if you're into your extreme cinema, then it's quite a tame film.
It's not extreme cinema, but it's out there. You know what I think? I think it's very trashy, but in a kind of very high end way. It's gloriously trashy, and I think if you go in with that mind frame, you'll have a good time. It looks beautiful. Got a lot of time for Barry Keoghan. Great accents.
Really, even Barry Keoghan.
I'm from Preston.
Yeah, I wasn't sure about
Liverpool, mate, from Preston, and mate.
what
a faff. Jacob Elord is actually Australian, but he does an English accent in this.
Yeah.
And it's not bad.
We should probably mention it's
a bit of a faff, mate.
But so it's set at Oxford University in 2006, I believe, and it's about Barry Keoghan and Barry Keoghan going to Oxford and trying to become friends with
Jacob Elordi's character.
Yeah, with a boy who lives in a mansion, basically.
Yeah.
And his father's Richard E. Grant, his mother's Rosamund Pike.
God, Richard E. Grant
is amazing. He's very good.
Rosamund Pike is so savage in this. Her one-liners are just brilliant.
It is peppered with these wonderful one-liners. Like, it really was good seeing this with an audience. performance because there were amongst the one-liners and the shocking scenes, like they were quite a vocal audience. So it's really
definitely.
It's really nice when that happens when you go see a film and like you can just hear the reactions of people just going, "What is this?
What's going on?
What's happening?" But yeah, but do you really think Barry Keoghan's accent was? Or is that part of it?
I don't know.
Because it's
it's interesting. I don't want to give too much away. I don't think we should give anything of the plot away because it is. I don't know if it's that twisty turny, to be honest.
Oh, it is. Well, no,
but it sort of is.
Yeah, I'd say.
I think you need to go into it blank.
Yes, which I kind of did because I didn't even. Because we should mention it is a film by Emerald Fennell who directed Promising Young Woman, which I absolutely loved, but I didn't actually realise that until. After I'd seen it, because I went in just knowing that there was some buzz about this film and people had been moaning about it on Twitter or whatever, and I was just like, I should probably go see this. And yeah, going into it blank is the best way, because I think, to be honest, like even discussing what the film is about is a spoiler to an extent.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, I'd just try and not to hear anything about it.
Yeah, I think some people have complained about how it deals with class. And, Emerald Fennell is a little bit upper class herself. She's a bit posh. And I think that's been a complaint for a lot of people. I agree and I disagree. But I can't explain why for spoiler reasons. So I won't get into it. But that is something that a lot of people didn't enjoy. And they didn't feel like it had anything interesting to say about that topic, or it didn't know what it wanted to say, or what it wanted to say was out of date. So pick one of those.
Yeah.
So that's a common sort of gripe about it. And I wouldn't disagree necessarily. But like I said, if you're going in for something that's kind of a bit trashy, a bit silly, but very well, she's got a good eye. She's got a very good eye. It's beautifully done. And I think it flows better than Promising Young Woman. I wanted to really love Promising Young Woman. There's a lot going for it, but it didn't quite flow for me as a film. Whereas I think this one does better in that department. I'm not saying it's a better film, but I think it just flows better, the story.
That's interesting, because I kind of felt the opposite, because I felt that Promising Young Woman was quite perfectly constructed. Like, I really loved that film.
Okay.
Like, that's 5-star business for me. But this, for me, I felt like far too much of the story happened in the last act. There's a lot that happens in the last act. There's some major beats there, and I think I would have preferred that to kind of been spread out a little bit more, because it's just like, because you kind of think the film's kind of coming to a conclusion a bit, but then it's like, oh no, then we got all this stuff happening, and it does feel like it's kind of rushing to just get all this story into the last act. And I don't know, I'm not saying I would have rather it had been a longer film. I just think some of the beats should have been maybe spread more evenly throughout the film, because it's just,
that's
I don't
fair.
know, yeah. I think.
And what a memorable final scene.
Yes.
Again, no spoilers here, but we see a lot of Barry Keoghan in this film.
We do.
A whole lot.
So I would recommend Saltburn very much, but also maybe not.
Oh God, it's another Paul classic, isn't it?
No. I go in, watch it without knowing anything about it if possible, and let us know what you think at pictureshow@brumradio.com. But now that's enough of that. That's enough Ridley. That's enough Saltburn. It's time to move on to the local news and events section with Nadine.
Thank you, Paul. On the 5th of December, Community Cinema Journey Film Club will be showing Purple Rain at the Birmingham LGBT Centre. On the 7th of December, Boxer Short Films will be showing their festive-ish films at the Glasshouse Beer Company. And on the 15th of December, our rivals, Sturchley Open Cinema, will be showing Scrooged at Sturchley Baths. But if you want to support us instead over our rivals, then come and see us at the... Well, no, you can go and see both, in all honesty. They're on different days.
That helps.
17th of December, we'll be showing Home Alone, and all proceeds from that screening will go to Kings Heath Food Bank. So why not watch a great film and help a good cause at the same time? And that's at the station in Kings Heath. And you can buy tickets to that at www.ticketsource/screen-b14. On the 19th of December, Journey Film Club will be showing Love Actually, again at the Birmingham LGBT Centre. And on the 21st of December, Sturchley Open Cinema, those again, will be showing Rare Exports at Brum Brewery. So that's a little roundup of all the upcoming local cinema news and events.
Well, that's exciting stuff. And I'll be honest, I think that's all we've got time for this week. In fact, it's more than we've got time for, to be honest.
It was so full of We're going to have to do a Ridley episode Mark 2 when Gladiator 2 comes out, the sequel.
Mm-hmm. That's right. When's that coming out?
Oh, I don't know. It's not even finished filming yet, mate.
Next year. But anyway, thank you very much for listening to the Brum Picture Show on Brum Radio. Do not forget to email us at pictureshow@brumradio.com, and indeed follow us on
Letterboxd, and you can follow us on the website formerly known as Twitter at ScreenB14, and on Insta and on Facebook if you want to keep up with all our film events.
That's right. And tune in next time for our anti-Christmas special, where we'll be talking about Christmassy films that aren't that Christmassy for people who hate Christmas.
Yeah, mate, for all the Scrooges and Grinches out there.
That's right. But for now, thanks for joining me and Nadine. And
thank you.
Yeah, I hope you'll come back.
Please do.
Please do.
Please do.
Goodbye.
Bye.
You have been listening to The Brum Picture Show, a Screen B14 production for Brum Radio. Tune in next time for more film fun, and don't forget to email us at pictureshow@brumradio.com. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.
Okay, well that was only 2 hours this time. That's quite
I'm blaming you.
Quite brief.
As always.
There you go. Oh my God. But I think if Rory had been there, we would have been looking for a 3-hour recording.
He might have kept us on track.
Where does the time go? No, he wouldn't. He'd have just started talking about Scooby-Doo or something. Scoobs.
Thank you for listening to this Brum Radio podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and rate us on your podcast app.